recording and I will start.
I think it tells us all. There we go.
All right, it does. All right, so Katie's coming in. Joanne, Donna, Berta. Oh, damn, I let iPad. Ah.
Now, Donna Egan's saying, let me in. I don't see her. Is she in yet? Let me message her.
I had just gotten knocked off for a minute, but I'm
Oh,
back.
were you iPad's user?
No, I don't know what happened. I'm on a laptop, but I got, oh, my username is Kelly Sorrentino.
Oh, then why? Okay. No.
Folks, if you can, as you enter, please rename yourself with at least your name and your service unit and position. Otherwise, we might have to let out some of the folks named iPad and Zoom user just to be sure that we won't get Zoom bombed. And if anyone needs help with that, feel free to write in the chat and we're happy to help.
What happened?
Okay, Sharon is posting in the chat. She needs help with that.
Sharon, we can see your name, so that's okay. We're mostly concerned about the folks named owner or Zoom user, that kind of thing. Jean, we just asked if you can just at least put your name in, so you're good on that count. And if also, if you want, you could also put your service unit and or your position. Just
Right.
no.
Where do we do that?
Usually it is, where do we do
Yes.
that? You click over your
Somebody
name.
says-
You click
someone
over your
said it
name
says
in the
owner.
chat and you go to rename under more.
Whoever is listed as owner, please put your name.
Carol Beck, that's you.
Carol, oh, your owner. Okay, very good.
Okay, so if you hover over your little box, up in the upper right-hand corner, there should be 3 dots. And when you press the 3 dots, the bottom option is rename.
Thank you, Maureen.
I actually I clicked on participants. Then all the names come up. Then I hovered over my name and it had more. And then I could change my name.
That's how it is on
Carol,
mine
that's how you
too.
do it.
I feel like one of the challenges
That's
with
on a
Zoom is-
computer. On an
yeah.
iPad or a phone, it'll be different. Then you need the 3 dots.
Yeah, that's one
Okay,
of the
I'm
frustrations.
letting in somebody called Zoom user. We'll see who they are.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all
Right,
good
if
tonight.
If Zoom user could please list your name. Okay. Oh, they're not there yet.
There's Donna. Okay, and if folks haven't, I think there's only 1 or 2 more people. If you could just make sure you rename yourself so we have some indication of who you are. You can go over your list, your name in the participants list and click more and go to rename. I think Jane or Maureen had the instructions for how to rename yourself on a different platform. Yes, Andre?
Oh,
I see your hand. Right, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. We have 3 of the candidates with us, I believe.
Does Jerry have the Zoom?
That's a good question. Do you want to message that to her, please? She might not have Zoom. All right. Got like 1 or 2 more minutes. Hope everyone's had good dinner tonight, etc.
At least a good weekend. Today's weather was yucky.
Yeah, it's really not a bad day to be inside on Zoom compared to how it's been recently. All right. I think we can probably get started. So just to let you all know, we are recording this so that you can share it with either your service units or the other delegates who might not be able to attend tonight. And I'm Phoebe Fox North. I'm the delegate and SUM with Misty Mountains in New Paltz 609. And we were just hoping to kind of give everyone a chance to chat with some of the board and board development committee candidates tonight and kind of get to know them a little better. I believe Kelly Sorrentino has said she'll lead us in the promise. Kelly, are you? I can lead it if I need.
Okay, I got it. I got it. I had to
Okay.
unmute myself. Sorry. Okay, everybody, I'm ready.
Okay.
So on my honor,
Honor,
I
I will try.
serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live with the Girl Scout law.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Does
You
anyone
got it.
want to lead the pledge? No,
Sure. You want me
Sure.
to do that too?
sure, why
I
not?
pledge
It feels like
allegiance-
it. To the
I
flag
pledge allegiance to the flag of
Flag
the
of the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America,
America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty
with
and
liberty
justice
for all.
Okay, thank you. It feels very official, especially with Juliet Gordon Lowe behind me here. So just to let you know, Jane Chibatar is helping with the tech tonight. So if anyone gets booted, etc., maybe you could send her a Facebook message, anything like that. If no one's letting you into the room or you know someone is trying to, that might be a help. So tonight it seems we have with us, and hopefully our other candidates will make it, but maybe not, Donna Egan, who's running for Board Development Committee. Who else do we have? I'm going through the list. Bear with me. Or text. There's Jane's cell phone is 914-262-9245 if anyone's having text problems. Thank you, Jane, for helping with that. So we have Donna Egan, who's running for Board Development Committee, Gail Hauk, who is running for Board President, and Kate Doyle Bunker, who is running for Board Secretary. I'm going to start, I think that's everyone who's here. If I've missed anyone, please give a shout in the chat. It's a long list of names. I think I'm going to start with Donna, if she can come on and introduce herself.
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good, awesome. Welcome, everybody. I'm not exactly sure of the format, so just guide me a little bit if I'm doing something wrong.
You're doing
But,
great so far.
Thank you. I was I asked to possibly fill one of the seats for Board Development Committee. So it's an exciting opportunity for me And thank you for even considering me qualified. Just a little summary of myself. I was a Girl Scout from a very young age all the way up until high school. And then I've been, since my daughter has been in kindergarten, first grade, I've been a leader, Girl Scout leader for her troop. She's now a senior in high school, graduating in about a month. So excited about that. And then I got more and more involved in Girl Scouting along the way. What else? I was service unit manager. I was recruiter. I was cookies, pretty much all the positions throughout the last couple of years. So I thought it might be prudent for me to stay involved in Girl Scouting through a higher level position and helping guide and coach the next group of leaders to make Girl Scouts a very solid organization going forward, serving the girls. So that's a little bit about myself. Working mom, right? Working mom. So, and I happen to be in the field of environmental health and safety. So safety is very important to me, the safety of the girls. And then environmental protection is important to me personally as well.
Thank you, Donna. And I'm sure those are values most of us share. Appreciate that. Katie Doyle, do you want to be called Katie or Kate for this?
It does. I'm welcome to be, I would be happy to be called anything. And I'm grateful to be here this evening to speak to everyone. I actually moved up to the Hudson Valley as a little girl and didn't have the opportunity to be in Girl Scouts because there wasn't a place for me when we moved to the area. When my daughter was in kindergarten, the first thing I did was sign her up for Girl Scouts, and them not having a need for me as a leader in her troop, I volunteered in any way, in every way that I could. I am a family support specialist, so I support post-adoptive and guardianship families. But before I was that, I was the clerk for the Village of New Paltz. So I'm used to being the communications hub for an organization. I'm used to being able to listen, to think that transparency is extraordinarily important. I also, in the Village of New Paltz, they run by nonpartisan elections. So I was the chief election officer. So able to separate my personal opinions from that that I was charged with doing. There were plenty of times I would have liked to have said, could you elect my boss? He's a great guy, but didn't have that opportunity because I had to be impartial in everything that I did. It's my honor to help in any way I can, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to me this evening.
Right. Excuse me. Thank you, Katie, so much for that. And Gail, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Gail Hauk. You may notice that I share a last name with somebody else in the meeting today, which is my mom, Patricia. I grew up in the Hudson Valley as a Girl Scout. I stayed in Girl Scouts as long as I could until my troop basically dissolved, unfortunately. I was a helper for the younger girls for a while after that as well. I grew up going to Camp Wendy every summer. It was a highlight of my summer break every year. More recently, one of the reasons that I'm here, obviously, I was asked to help out. I have almost 20 years of experience on the boards of nonprofits. I have served as chairman of several different organizations, basically the equivalent of president. I've served on the national board for a nonprofit, which is equivalent to the National Council of Girl Scouts. I have gone through a whole bunch of different strategic initiatives where we needed to change the direction of the organization that I was chairing. And like Kate mentioned, being able to do that in a participative way, not necessarily what I want to do. I have no skin in the game, right? But I want to be able to help facilitate those discussions and to get the inputs from people and move forward in the direction that people want to be moving in. So in terms of my work life, I work in, I am an engineer by training. I have had a lot of opportunities to travel all around. I most recently was living in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East, working at a construction site for 3 years. And about a year ago, it was time to come back home to the US. And I'm currently working as a senior researcher at one of the national laboratories that's located in Tennessee.
Thank you, Gail, of bringing that STEM inspiration to the girls as well as local experience. Thank you for coming tonight. So what I thought we would do is run this as a round table, and I just have about 4 questions. So I thought I would ask the questions, we'll go through each candidate, each person can answer. And then after we get through those questions, we can just open it up for questions from the delegates, the audience. Does that sound good? Yeah. I'll start with Donna. The first question for all of you is, why Girl Scouts? Why did you want to get involved in this organization specifically?
Yeah, so for me, Girl Scouts is what I grew up with. So it was what I was familiar with. And also, more importantly, organizations that empower women are critical, right? So in my generation, I've seen a lot of change in that regard. So growing up, women had a different standing, and I've gently ignored that throughout my career. But I don't think that's always the case, right? I think women need to be empowered, and young girls at an early age need to be coached and guided. And for me, that's important in terms of equity. And so that's why I've decided that it would be prudent for me to invest some of my free time in Girl Scouting.
All right, thank you, Donna. Kate, do you want to take that question? Why Girl Scouts?
Well, when I was a child, several of my dearest friends were Girl Scouts, and their experience has traveled with them into adulthood. And now that I am the mother of a girl, I stand behind absolutely everything that she does. And if I'm going to stand behind her, then I better show up to be a help, because as an adult, that's my job. And it's my job to bring what skills I have to help out the best that I can. And I can't think of any more organization that empowers young women to be leaders, to have faith in themselves than the Girl Scouts do.
Fantastic, thank you. And excuse me, Gail?
Similar to what Donna mentioned, being a woman in STEM, and especially I work in the nuclear power industry, there are not a lot of women. And especially recently, as I've been getting older and contemplating my mortality, as I have a big birthday coming up, I've been thinking more and more about how can I pave the way for other girls? How can I be an inspiration for other girls just by doing my job, just by being there, just by being an example of something that they could do if they wanted to, in fields where they may not otherwise see themselves or feel welcome. I feel that representation is so important. And as others have mentioned, Girl Scouts is such a great way for girls to get exposure to some of those different types of women, and have some of those experiences where they can see themselves in different places. Obviously, I'm particularly interested in Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson. That's where I grew up. That's where my family is. That's where, my niece is a Girl Scout there. And if I can give back to that organization and help improve things there, I'm very happy to do it.
All right, and we appreciate you stepping up. My next question is, what inspired you to run or to accept a nomination to run, as I believe you're all accepted nominations from the floor, to run for the board or the board development committee? What inspired you to make that choice? Donna, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. What inspired me? I'm gonna say for me, status quo is sometimes a downfall of an organization. And so more recently, I've seen some changes that have been happening that concern me. And I think that there should be some excellent leadership out there that can make some changes, right? Some change management. And I'm hoping I can find those folks and coach them and elevate them up to the board to make it a successful organization. So I guess that's what inspired me, is just the ability to make a change and to contribute in a positive way. And I'm just very grateful that I'm even being considered.
And I hope it's okay if I share here that Donna and I had been talking about when we saw that there was no president on the slate that was presented. Donna and I were chatting about who we could get as president, who would step up, who would take that nomination. And we have spent the last 3 weeks, Donna has been messaging CEOs on LinkedIn, and we had some very impressive calls. And Donna kept saying, I wish I just had more time to talk
More
to these
time.
folks." Some of those calls we had were amazing. And I think had we not been saying, by the way, the elections on May 4th, there's kind of no telling what might have happened. And I'm excited to see what you could do in that position.
People want to sit on boards, right? They want to sit on boards of valuable not-for-profits. That's a good thing. So I think we could definitely get some.
I think if anyone can do it, you can do it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So Kate, what inspired you to accept a nomination to run for the board?
Well, I've been a delegate with Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson for the last year. And it's been an interesting year, as we all know that there's been several things that have come up in conversation. And as we see that there may need a place for seats to be filled, I have a talent. I have a skill, and if you stand by an organization, it's your responsibility to say, these are my talents. Here's how I'm willing to use them, and I would be happy to use what I have to help the next generation of girls go a little bit further.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. How do we model leadership if not for stepping up and leading ourselves? Gail, same question for you. What inspired you to accept a nomination and run?
I do want to mention, I 100% agree with everything that Kate just said. My inspiration really is my niece, Molly Darcy. I'm sure some of you know, she wrote this wonderful story about Camp Wendy for her Silver Award project. And even having been there for so many years, I learned a lot from her story. And I learned then that she had never, and probably will never, have the opportunity to attend Camp Wendy the way that I did with Sleepaway Camp and going to Singing Pine State Camp. And honestly, that just makes me so sad. And I want those opportunities to be available to girls like my niece going forward in our community.
Absolutely. I have to say, for me, something that we're not the ones who miss out here. It's the next generation so we appreciate that stewardship. The next question is, what do you see the job of the role you'd be taking on with the board or the board development committee? What is your job if you take this job? What are your primary duties? Donna?
Yeah, so for me, identifying, coaching, and developing the next generation of leaders for the organization, and working collaboratively with other folks on the board development committee and the board of directors. I've had a lot of leadership development training, a lot of change management training, being able to lend that expertise to the group. That would be, I think, the core of their responsibilities.
Fantastic, thank you. Kate, same question. What do you see the job of board secretary to be?
To be a voice to for the constituency, as the constituency brings forth things that they're concerned with the governance. It's a voice to say, this is what's been brought forth, a voice of transparency to say, this is how decision-making is made. Please refer back to such and such information that was shared, so that the constituency feels like they have a representative who hears them, and even if we don't share the exact same point of view, at least your point of view had a platform to be shared.
Fantastic, thank you. And Gail, same question regarding what do you see the role as board president being?
The president is a bit of a figurehead position. It's very visible, and I think it's important for the person in that position to be a good representative of what a Girl Scout should be, to be that example, both in word and deed, to girls that talk to her or volunteers or anybody that's involved in the Girl Scout movement. I have been in situations on boards before, like I mentioned, where we were trying to make a strategic change. You can imagine, since I've been doing this for almost 20 years, a lot of my board experience, I was quite young and often working with much older men, and learning to navigate that kind of environment and being able to work with folks in that collaborative way is what I hope to be able to accomplish if I'm installed as board president. I also, like Kate said, think it's really important. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect between how things run with the board versus the will of the delegates versus what it says in the bylaws. And that all really needs to be rectified. And I hope that I can help make some of those changes as president.
Thank you. I think you're saying what a lot of us are thinking. So the final question is, what do you hope to accomplish during your term in this role? Donna, do you want to go first?
Sure. For me, as a group, if we could accomplish a very collaborative environment, right, where we conduct succession planning, right, for the organization would be very critical, right? So we need to be able to work together, build an exceptional board, and have that board be able to represent the membership and keep the Girl Scouts heart of the Hudson solvent, and to the benefit of the girls at the direction of the membership.
Fantastic, thank you. So Kate, same question. What do you hope to accomplish during your term?
I hope to be a bridge between a time of frustration over the last year. I hope to be a voice, especially for our girls who may not come from the most economically prosperous situations. My time with as a family support specialist means that I support families that need to go to the Department of Social Services in 7 counties and family court in 7 counties. So I'm well aware of the struggles of families and how Girl Scouts can be really a help to these young women who might not have the opportunity to participate in some other extracurriculars. Also an opportunity in leadership that way. So I'm hoping that my time with the board would be a voice for those who are requesting it, and a bridge from the current time period to the next time period where leadership hopefully will have great listening ears and great transparency.
Thanks so much. And I think you really speak to something, which is that this has been a time of high emotions, both generally in the world and also specifically in what's going on with our council. So appreciate you speaking to that. Gail, same question. What do you hope to accomplish during your term as board president?
I think the most important thing is transparency. I want to ensure that there's no secrets. The board operates according to the bylaws, following the will of the delegates. That's what it says in the bylaws. And I want to make sure that's being done in a transparent way as much as possible. Ensure we have those open lines of communication, a free flow of information between the delegates and the operations and the board, and just really try to set up our infrastructure along with what Donna was saying, get those succession plans in line, make sure things are functioning the way that they're supposed to, and make sure that we are set up for success going forward.
Thank you so much. So those are my questions, my prepared questions, and I thought we would open it up to all of the lovely folks here and see if anyone would like to ask our candidates questions. Let's say you could either type in the chat or you could raise your hand here on the screen and we will call on you. And I see a hand already from Jean. So why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Thank you. And thanks for stepping up, ladies. It's great to see some new blood coming in and green blood. I do have one question for Gail about being from Tennessee. Can you be on the board from Tennessee? And then a question for all of you as to, I think it is a time of high emotion, but what do you know about the actual budget? Because the job of a board is to raise money. That is really in board development, what's supposed to happen. So what are I didn't hear really anyone talking about that. And I'm concerned. I love all the other ideas. I think they're really important. But if we don't have the money to operate, we're going to find ourselves wanting to get rid of property. So I want to know what you all know about the budget and the money and how the council can be sound and operate soundly without selling properties.
All right, Gail, do you want to take the question first and then we'll open it up to the rest?
I will take the question first.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so there's nothing in the bylaws that has a geographical radius from the council. It's not the first time that there's been somebody outside of the Hudson Valley area that has served on the board. And for me, honestly, it's quite easy to get back to New York, and it's an excellent excuse to go visit my family. Right now, I'm planning to be there for the special meeting later this month, so I will be there in person for that meeting. And for me, my job is pretty flexible, so I'm able to work remotely and can travel to support in-person events and things throughout the year as needed. So I don't think that will be an issue. I also think your questions about the finances and the budget are well-founded. That's definitely an area of concern, and I'm very much interested in getting to look at the audit reports and reviewing that financial picture in full and not just the publicly available information. That's going to be a big part of what the board needs to do upfront, is to take a look at that and look at the operational funds and see where are we and what do we need to do.
Thank you, Gail. Let's say, Donna, do you want to take the question about funds?
Yeah, so of course I'm nominated for the board development committee, so not the board of directors, but for me, I think anybody that would be considered for the board of directors should have a financial savvy, and possibly the ability to fundraise as well. But that's going to be critical, and I've been pretty vocal about that. That's certainly, it's great to have all these programs and all these camps, but the money it's got to come from somewhere. And so, that's the only way that we're going to be able to save the camp. So having that skill on the board of directors is going to be highly sought after.
Great, thank you, Donna. Kate?
Well, in my varied career past, before I was the clerk of the Village of New Paltz, I was on the accounting team at Mohawk Mountain House. So I have a strong understanding of accounting. And I'd certainly be interested in knowing how things have been run prior to this. And certainly when I've spent most of my life working with people and working as part of a team. So when it comes down to fundraising, I am boots on the ground, helping out. How can I be part of the solution type of person? So I understand about budgets because I certainly had to live within them as part of a municipality and my accounting background. I also work for a not-for-profit right now, so I know how every dollar has to be stretched and how we have to multitask many things and many people. I can't say that I personally could balance the budget right this second, but I certainly would be interested in working to be part of the solution.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Jean, for your question. I see a hand from Maureen Delia Connolly.
So I would just like to respond to what Jean is saying. My understanding is the requirement for the board is a donation of either self-donating or raising only $2,500 a board member a year, which obviously is a stretch for some people. But my other understanding is that our CEO, that a main part of their job is to help facilitate money coming in by, connecting with corporations and managing our council in a way that they are driving donations or driving funds to our council. And I don't think we've successfully had that in multiple CEOs. I see no evidence that Marie brought in any money. I mean, I could be missing something, but I don't see anywhere where she created a relationship that brought in money. So my understanding is that the board has an actual dollar figure, which is $2,500 a person. But my understanding was a huge part of the CEO's job, and I don't believe that's been happening. And it's also my understanding, while the board is responsible for approving the budget, if the council, if the operations is not meeting the budget and the goals, then the board should be intervening or reacting or responding in some way. So yes, there's operations and there's governance, but never, ever have I seen what I've seen in the last 3 years, where the board very narrowly was focused on their governance piece, while operations was going to hell in a handbasket, and the board was not commenting in any way, because that's operations. I mean, unless I'm really confused, but I've been a delegate a long time, and I've worked with a lot of the different board people, CEOs, presidents. I've just never seen what I've seen in the last 3 years. So
I think you're right, Maureen. Technically, the CEO works for the board, so the board should be not doing the operations, but strategically directing what's happening with operations, including the finance piece of it, with support from the operations side, from the finance manager.
And just a follow-up response to that is, my understanding is Maria is saying she's left us in very good shape and that we're in the black $1 million. We're in the black $1 million because we have not maintained our properties to the point where they're dangerous. And we're going to have to give them away because we can't even afford to fix them. And we may not have enough staff to even support our girls or our properties, even in scale down. So I'm only concerned with what has happened, and I'm hoping that by raising our voices, that maybe we can see a change. I hope.
If possible, I would just like to piggyback a little more on that. I worked for Girl Scouts for a lot of years. Then I went to another nonprofit. And the things I learned from there is a board's role is to give, get, or get off. And to hear that $2,500 is the number, the council can't operate if the board members all contribute $2,500. Where in the other organization I worked in, the board had passion for the organization, and the board donated big dollars. And the CEO networked in the community for the board members to give the big dollars. And really where most of it came from was alumni who grow up in the camps. Here we just keep chopping the camps and we keep losing the alumni, which is really a vicious cycle. You know, I worked in Dutchess County camps, brought the kids in for 13 years, finally got them to the point where they would have become alumni, and then we got rid of camp in Dutchess County. So that's a big challenge, but I think the board's focus should, fundraisers like, you know, dinners are not what raises the big money. It's having these donors that will donate a dining hall and put their name on it. That's where, and that's what we need in board members. And that's what we need in a board president and a CEO, to be making those connections. So I just put that out there. I don't think all of the change happens at once, but that is what I saw successful in a different youth serving organization than Girl Scouts.
I just want to respond to that, to Jean's comment, if that's okay. There's definitely a number of different models that nonprofits use. Some of them use that pay to play. You pay money to get on the board and have the fancy title. Others don't use that. Other nonprofits that, like the National Board of Directors that I served on, I did not pay to serve in that role. We were all volunteers. We had membership dues, but not big donations. They solicited those from other places. So there's a lot of different models. The donate to be on the board is not the only one that's viable, but I do think it's essential that everyone on the board is building relationships and building an organization that people want to be part of and that they will graduate from and then want to continue to support in different ways. That is absolutely essential, regardless of which kind of model that we're using. So I definitely agree with that. That's a big concern for the long-term viability of the organization, to be building those community relationships and being an organization that people want to be part of and they want to be associated with.
Yeah, thank you for the insight, all three of you, on that. Let me see. What I saw some discussion in the chat. Andrea Lamantia had said, who brings in money like the Dyson grants, and Victoria Halfpenny had some insight that Dyson is very specific with how they donate. GSHH has a fund development person who does work on grants. Are there any more questions? There haven't been hands in a bit. Any more?
I see that. Mhm.
No question.
Carol.
Rose raising her hand. Old school. Old school
Quick,
hand raise.
I just thought, I've been away from Girl Scouting. I worked originally with Dutchess County for a number of years. And what has seemed to happen is that the CEOs, there's been, I believe, 5 in the last 20 years, maybe. And what do you see as the board role? And because we do not have a CEO, what is the board role in finding a CEO that's going to be effective?
Who would like to field that question first? Maybe Kate, would you like to take that?
Well, certainly there's been a lot of conversation in our social media groups. There's been a lot of conversation in our meetings about what we hope to see in a CEO. I think that that's one of the first things that you would measure is, what does the constituency look for? And the next thing you would do would go out and request proposals from headhunting organizations, looking for someone who can bring the skills that we need as the CEO, someone who can go out in the community, someone who can look for donors, someone who is willing to listen, someone who can work well with the board. All of those things together would make an ideal candidate. And I think it will be difficult, but I think that there's definitely someone who wants to serve and wants to serve girls in that way.
Excellent, thank you. Donna, would you like to take that question? I know you wouldn't be involved in the CEO search, but
No.
you'd be involved in selecting board members who might be. So
Sure.
what do you see the role?
Yeah, so the next CEO is probably going to be the success or failure of Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson. So it's going to be a big commitment on the part of the board and the delegates to make sure they get the right person to lead us, right? So another 3 years of going the way we are is going to be problematic. So hopefully we get an exceptional candidate for that position.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Gail, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to beyond what Kate and Donna said, but I do again want to stress, I think the more we can get the organization in good shape as board, the better off we'll be with integrating a new CEO into the operations side of the organization, and just kind of setting them up for success to move forward with the organization. That being said, it will be really, really important for the board to be setting expectations for that CEO, and what the board is expecting, what the delegates are expecting, what the whole membership is expecting for them to do and be, and to lead by example.
Thank you, Gail. Joanne, I see your hand up. Would you like to go ahead?
Good evening. Gail, you seem very polished, poised, and well-spoken. And I believe you would represent us well and handle things professionally. Again, I agree that you hit the nail on the head when it came to the disconnect that exists between membership and council and the board's role in bringing that together or bridging it if they could. But I mean, how would you handle or help to get some of these things together? Like for example, there were service units who wanted to help with fundraising for camps, that were closed, and they were not even permitted to do that. And I feel like we need to bring that together, at least have some sort of explanation back to the people to how and why, and at least put it on the table to talk. And how would you help to facilitate that kind of bridge?
Thanks, Joanne. That is an awesome question, and I've been thinking about that a lot recently. I think the first thing that I would do is so we don't know what's going to happen with the camps, right? There's still kind of a vote outstanding on that from what I understand. I don't know all the details, but there's some actions in progress, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. Assuming that the camps are not immediately sold, the first thing that I would want to do is to set up a small subcommittee to look at how can we manage the maintenance of these camps? How can we best utilize the properties that we have, and get folks from the different service units and get the membership involved in creating those solutions to the issues that we're having. We have such a depth of knowledge and experience and enthusiasm for our camps, for our properties.
Yes.
It is just, it's just an untapped resource, in my opinion, that I would want to tap into that resource and to get the folks that have those ideas to put those together and see what can we do to maybe save some of these properties, and get them in a manageable state, going forward in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I'll just add on, it's Donna here. So I'll just add, instead of no, 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 we need a little yes, yes, yes in this council, right? You have very active very almost aggressive membership in a lot of ways. And how do we harness that, right? How do we harness that for the betterment of this organization, right? And I know even in the workplace, you get a lot more out of people when you're positive, right? When you're positive towards them. Negative doesn't pay the rent for sure.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to that, Donna. I had a experience like that with the no on one of the other boards that I served on, and it wasn't the board that was saying no. It was the staff, the operations staff of the organization, and I actually asked the president of the board to have a closed meeting with just the board so we could discuss those issues we were having with the staff. And I said that it's not acceptable for volunteers to be coming to the staff with ideas and the answer to be no. The answer should always be yes, if. Yes, we can do that if these other conditions are met. It's not an immediate no. It's a, how can we make that happen, or what would need to be in place for that to happen? That's the only acceptable answer is yes, we can do that if we have enough money or enough volunteers or enough resources or whatever. Just what are those conditions so that people know and understand, and then we can work together to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. I can say, as someone who's attended these meetings, the special meeting, the one thing that struck me is how many solutions to these problems every single volunteer has. And I mean, that is Girl Scouts, you know, you say, oh, this is what's going on with a parent, or I need to run this meeting. And you just get a flood of wonderful, slightly overwhelming answers. We have a lot of energy for problem solving. Appreciate that. Maureen, I see your hand up.
So I just have a response. Obviously, I love what you're saying, Gail, but going back to the split between operations and governance. So what they would have said to us before our meeting, hopefully, and we can make changes, is that you're talking things for operations and that's none of your business. And that's just a statement. I don't know how we get, like I said, never before did I see such a clear-cut line. Before, like Eric Anderson, if there was a problem like this, he would have waded in. So I think I'm just making a statement. I hope whoever's running our board can have some changes like that. I just am concerned because of the whole operations versus governance. I want to bring up another topic, and those of you that know me, I love camp. I raised my girls in Rock Hill. Camp to me is important. All camps, not just my camp. You know, I want to save Wendy. My protest sign was Sell Montgomery, Save Wendy. I still really believe that. But the other thing that has really concerned me that I've seen over not just the pandemic, because it started way before the pandemic, but Girl Scouts was for all girls. And we really tried as an organization to support the girls that couldn't financially participate through grants, through programming. We have significantly reduced our number of funded girls, significantly. Also, in the past, while the grant people got a grant for a program, they added a bus. So if the kids from New Paltz could go to the program, but they couldn't afford the trip, the program got covered and the bus got covered. And so this is another change that I've seen in our council over probably the last 5 years, if certainly not the last 3, that I don't like. You know, I'd like to see Girl Scouts for all. And I think there's ways to make that possible.
Would any of our candidates like to speak to that?
I'd really love to see us embrace, just like we promise, to treat each girl as a sister. And that means we look to our older sisters who are alumni and say to them, do you remember your experience? Perhaps is there a little room in your budget to help the next girl in line? That means looking to our families who perhaps have a little bit more or have some special skill that they can use to share. I think sometimes we don't go to our families and go, this is what we're looking someplace, this is what we're looking for someplace in the heart of the Hudson. Does someone have something that they can add to that for the benefit of the next girl in line? And I think it's a little tiny method. I think it's little tiny things from the time that my daughter was a kindergartner and they needed to collect some money for arts and crafts supplies because it was their very first year. And they asked every parent for $20. We happened to be in a spot where I said to the leader, I'm like, if there's a little girl who can't afford the $20, please let me know and I'll quietly hand you that portion. Nobody should be without the opportunity to go. I think if we just have the mentality of taking care of the next girl in line, even if it's tiny little increments grow to tremendous things. And if we ask for a whole family involvement, for my husband, who is a huge supporter of our Son and Boy Scouts, the opportunity to go down to Wendy and help our daughter learn about archery. It was a phenomenal experience for both of them. She felt his full support behind him, behind her, and he felt really invested in a conversation where, as a really invested dad, he's really there for a lot of things, but he really got to do something that was him and her. So I think if we embrace that, we can grow from that.
Thank you, Kate. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, Peggy.
Yeah, engaging the alumni. They want to carry on, and I think Maureen said that earlier. But they, people want to give if you ask them, right? And so they need to be asked. And that's what we're gonna do, right? And maybe it's a small program like adopt a girl. Please donate $50, put your name on a plaque, right? So fundraising is important, and just engagement of the alumni is gonna be critical.
Thank you, Donna. Peggy, your hand's up, Peggy Kellen.
Yes. Yeah. I'm concerned that.
Peggy, we can't hear you.
We're losing your sound a little bit. Do you want to type your question in the chat?
Okay, now let's see, does this work?
That's better.
Yeah.
Okay, I turned it up. It has something with my Stephanie when the hearing when I turn it up, but I'll keep it up for now. The whole cost of camp has increased so much over the last 30 years. My daughter it was $150 for a week at camp. Camp Juanishi in Dutchess County. Day camp was only $65 at Camp Foster for a week. And most of the girls could afford to go for a week camp. What I hear all the time from leaders and parents is we just can't afford it. So I was wondering if we could explore methods for bringing down the cost of camp, whether it's getting more volunteers involved, asking leaders to come with their groups for a few days, maybe cutting down, using more volunteers in all sorts of capacities so that it would be possible for more girls. Because I know that Girl Scouts National has done surveys and they ask girls why they joined Girl Scouts. The leading reason is to go camping. And when they ask why you left Girl Scouts, the leading reason is we didn't go camping. So, we should be pushing it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kelly. Any comments on that from our candidates? Any thoughts?
The message is well received. I agree. I think we honestly, I think we've kind of priced ourselves out of the needs of our members in a lot of ways. We try to make these fancier and fancier programs because that's what people say that they want, but maybe they can't afford what they would like, and we can bring them something that will benefit them and provide a value and an experience and opportunity for growth. And maybe it's not as shiny or as fancy. Maybe there's latrines, but it's still camping. And I can't say I ever refused going to camp because there were latrines there. I had a wonderful experience despite the latrines. So I think that's a well-received message, and definitely something, like I said, if we can have the opportunity to put together a group of folks to do some brainstorming on that, that's definitely something that we would look at.
Right, thank you. Any thoughts from Kate or Donna on the cost of camp?
Yeah, it's too expensive. It's too expensive.
As someone who was a campership kid, I can speak to that, and also just speak to how amazing it was to go.
Yeah, I was a campership kid too, and that's it was the spiders and the tents and the latrines. Those are my happiest memories, and it made me a stronger person.
Agreed.
My children are 10 and 12, so I know how expensive summer camp is. And I know how difficult that might be. And sometimes we might have to reevaluate exactly what we're thinking. And maybe we don't concentrate so much on summer camp itself, but on the opportunity for girls to go camping. And maybe again, this past summer, both of my children actually participated in the garden that was run out of Wendy by the amazing staff at the museum. And the things that they got to learn in the short amount of time that they got to help out was tremendous. But what I learned while I was there supporting them was that frequently alumni will stop by the camp with the hopes that they could take a tour. And unfortunately, that's not an available option right now. Perhaps if we considered having things like alumni camping weekends for a group of people who have perhaps a more disposable income, that might help offset the cost of bringing girls to camp. It's a potential. It's not but when it was brought up a year ago, it was a hard no. Maybe it's a yes, but we need to do this in order to get there. And that would be an interesting topic to at least explore.
I think Victoria's had her hand up for a long time.
I can be patient.
No, go ahead, Victoria.
Sorry. Basically the question I had, as someone in the nonprofit sector who does fundraising for a living, it's sort of, it's a pulse, I think, on certain things. I was just looking at the GSH website to see if I could see who all the board members were. And right now it's not there. So that's a problem. Not even a listing of the names. So the big hot issue in boards right now is diversity. And I'm kind of curious from the board development for people looking for the board development committee, how you're going to ensure that, because I do think when you have a diversity of backgrounds, and mind you, I mean, all sorts of different backgrounds when I say that, from people who are IT people like Faye to people who are really down and dirty campers like myself, you get a better makeup of people because you have all these different ideas. So I am curious how, as board development people, you'll find those people who, yes, should have to pony up $2,500, which is in my point of view, a joke in this area based on the wealth alone in certain towns. We don't ask well. So that's the question from the board development people. And Gail, I came in a little late. I don't care that you live in Tennessee. I've worked with lots of nonprofits where the person doesn't live local, so that's not an issue. But I am curious, where do you work now? Like, what's your professional background? Is it IT? Is it marketing? What is it? Sorry, that was long.
I'll let Donna go first on the BDC question. and then
Oh,
I can-
yeah, I guess I'm
I'm
the
going to
people.
interrupt for 1 second. Just to clarify, Victoria, if you go to the Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson website and you search on governance, you can find the board. It is there. It's just hidden. It's not, well,
It's under a drop down carrot. I've had this problem before.
Oh, because I was like looking and I'm like,
It's very hard to
Faye, Marie. And
That's under the leadership, but if you go to governance, you can find, the
delegates and
board.
governance.
Okay, now I'm gonna let our candidates
Oh, I
speak. I
see
just wanted to-
All right, thank you. I see it now.
All right, go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, so I guess I'm the only board development candidate that made it on this time, but Jerry is actually very awesome as well. And I'm sorry she's not here, but yeah, I think having talents that can help the business function and make decisions, right? You're getting executives on the board that that are bringing in their knowledge for free, right? So you want to find those executives that have that kind of talent. And if everybody's a lawyer or everybody's in marketing or one particular discipline, then shame on us, right? Because then they're gonna all agree with each other, and that's not, disagreeing, gently disagreeing, is what makes the world go round, right? That makes change, affects change. And so to have that right balance of people that are willing to speak up, right, and willing to contribute, and not just have it heavy-handed on one or two people is going to be pretty important. And having a diversity of candidates also. I mean, yeah, that's what you hear about every day in the workforce is diversity, diversity, diversity.
Great, thank you, Donna. And Gail, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can give you a little bit more background on my work experience. So right now at the National Lab in Tennessee, I'm a senior researcher. I do work in the nuclear energy arena, working on innovation and green energy sources and net zero carbon emission technologies. In my career, I've worked in all different things. I've worked in marketing, I've worked in product development, I've worked in project management, I've worked in doing heavy engineering work as well. And I have my MBA with a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. I currently serve on the finance committee of another nonprofit, so I do have some background in there, as well as the technical background.
All right, thank you, Gail. I see Joanne has her hand up.
Yes. When we were talking about camps and property, I after reading documents and stuff that come my way, I noticed that there is an issue with, council managing the property, right? And I know a large, and it's not just cost per se, it's like how to do it. And I was thinking maybe like a solution would be to possibly outsource it and maybe utilize the staff that might be in charge of that, like the funds for staff for them, instead maybe like to concentrate on grants or creating partnerships with corporations, similar to like maybe how colleges do, to like bring in the funding that would help pay for this, the outsourcing of the property management. Like, what do you feel on like that? How do you feel about that, that avenue? Maybe going that avenue.
I can talk about that a little bit. I've actually been doing a lot of thinking on that as well. I think there's a lot of good opportunities either for outsourcing, like you said, and having, paying people that do that for a living that can do it more efficiently, rather than having an on staff maintenance folks. Another potential opportunity is to allow a different nonprofit to run the operations of the camps, and have Girl Scouts own the properties, and then the maintenance and the running of the camp be taken care of under a different nonprofit organization that partners with Girl Scouts to manage that. Maybe that's, made up of Girl Scout volunteers and other people from the community that are passionate about our green spaces and providing those opportunities to the kids and to the community. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities there to get creative. So with my background in engineering and technology, and then having studied innovation, I've always been very interested, not just in like technological innovations, but how can we change our business processes to do more with less, to be more creative or create a better structure that will work better for the organization. So that's definitely something that I think that there are some creative solutions there that we could follow.
Thank you, Gail. Do either Kate or Donna want to speak to that?
Well, for me, coincidentally, I was on the phone call today for work with someone from Cushman Wakefield, and that's, a high dollar. But they do that kind of thing. They support organizations that can't have a full-time specialist in a certain discipline. They will lend out their staff and provide support that way. So it's something to consider, right? Again, let's look at that, and we need some strategic approaches on how we got to make major changes, right? And how we're going to do that is we have to have people that think creatively, that suggest things, just like as you just did, Joanne, and and move forward quickly.
For sure. Thank you, Donna. Kate, did you want to speak to that?
Well, I also think we might have to have some out of the box thinking. We talk about how important these open spaces are to us. We also know that the Hudson Valley is a destination location for so many places. Perhaps we need to think of shared spaces with, if we had organization management from someone and had an agreement to use our space part of the time and let somebody else use our space part of the time, and the fees collected from that shared usage would help offset our expenses for running that. Again, I don't have all, it's a possible thing to suss out. Maybe it has value, maybe it doesn't, but it's better than just throwing up on our hands and going, oh, we can't do anything. All is lost, all is lost.
For sure. Thank you for that, Kate. Peggy Kelland, go ahead. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. When the councils merged many years ago, I was on the training subcommittee, and we had 3 people from each council, a volunteer, a staff member, and a board member. And we discussed training, and we were all very enthusiastic about what each other were doing and looked forward to being able to do all these trainings, plus all the new ideas we got when the councils merged. The councils merged and they did away with volunteer trainers. This is a place where I think you could use, help your staff be more efficient, that they could have the additional help of volunteer trainers. Also, volunteers providing programs. For the last 10 years, AAUW and the American Association of University Women and New Oaks Girl Scouts have collaborated to offer programs to the higher council. And I see some people here whose troops took place in them. We offer a maze, the Girl Scout, that journey. We've offered other programs, different badge workshops. We've had a great deal of trouble sharing this publicity with other groups around the council, although it's open to everybody. And I'm sure we could expand what we're doing if we had more response. And I'm sure there are other groups who might be willing to run various programs for the Girl Scouts at either completely free or a very nominal cost for supplies. So I think you ought to be looking into those things too.
Could Jane just respond as a volunteer trainer? Because I do think they have fixed some of that volunteer trainer. They haven't reached out to the retired trainers, but I do think they are finally on board with volunteer trainers.
Yes, most of the trainers, I do outdoor training as
Me too.
well as, all level training in the leader circles. And I'm a volunteer, and I've been doing that for at least the last 6 years since my granddaughter is in joined Girl Scouting. Actually, it's more than 6, or whatever. So they do have volunteer trainers now, and they are getting more. There's a couple of them I see that are online here. Is that
Yeah, so I agree, Peggy. They destroyed it and they alienated people. They seem to be bringing it back. Do I think
Good.
they've reached out to the alumni to encourage them? No. And again, I would like to say their bizarre lack of reaching out to the alumni is not new. Mary Struck, who was our last GSWP president, used to tell me all the time before she died that not once did anybody ask her for money, and she certainly would have generously given. They do seem to now send out a message like, oh, send $110, if you're like a lifetime, or, they were sending that message out, but with no alumni engagement, they're not going to be that quick to open their pocket. I mean, fund development, if they're going to engage alumni, they need to engage them, remember people's birthdays, invite them to tea, whatever involves them, invite them to camp, whatever makes them happy. So, and again, is this a board problem or an operations problem? And can the board lead the operations into being better? I can only hope.
Any thoughts on that, Gail or Kate? About the board's role in engaging alum?
Yeah, I put my my thoughts in the chat while Maureen was talking.
There it is. Relationship building is essential.
I mean, whether you're on the board or in operations, you have to be the kind of people that, people want to give to and want to hang out with and want to, be part of that organization and inspire people to give back, whether they're, inspire people, whether they're the girls or whether they're alumni that, we're looking to have them give back and be involved.
Yeah, thank you.
I also think telling them that we're grateful they're giving back no matter what they can give is fantastic. Some of our alumni are in their 20s and their 30s and their budgets aren't big enough for certain things. But feeling like they're important for being able to give $25 because you asked for 25 this time and they're like, oh, that I can do, that's manageable, is better than feeling defeated. If you're looking for $100 and some odd and I don't have 100 to give you right this second. So I think it's being grateful for what we're given, and that builds the trust in the relationship that as people progress in what they're able to do, they're also able to share more.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. And I did want to say I have spoken to staff about possibly starting campus Girl Scouts here in New Paltz. And one of the barriers is that they simply don't have records in an area of who is an alum unless they're a lifetime member, which makes it very difficult to do that outreach. I come from a fundraising background though, and it's not, you can build those databases. It's not impossible. So I do think that is a logistical problem, but not an insurmountable one. Trish Hauk.
Hi, I wanted to add on for people were saying that camp is very expensive. Well, when my daughters went to camp, I was a volunteer, and so they gave a discount to the children who went to camp, meaning my kids, and they also they gave me a stipend to like pay for my gas. So they weren't really paying me, but they were getting the benefit, and my children were getting the benefit of camp because I volunteered. So that could go back on if you can get people that are still around, that have the summers off and whatnot, like teachers and such, and offer that kind of a thing to the families. They might be able to afford camp, and it would be a lower price to go to camp. The other thing is, I have offered council multiple times trainings to do outdoor trainings for the upper end of our council, and I've been ignored because I asked to do it at Camp Wendy. And we don't need much. We don't need a lot of space, especially if we're not doing overnight anymore for the outdoor trainings. But you have to have some positive feedback in order to want people to keep coming back.
Would any of the
Thanks.
candidates like to speak to that? Or maybe just how we would ensure we're engaging? Question for me, I guess. How do we ensure we're engaging those outer reaches of council? Outer reaches. Any thoughts?
I think part of what we're doing right now is that we're bringing people together in Zoom. If we can't get together in person, if it's kind of far to bring Ellenville and New Paltz together on a general Monday night, but we can come together in Zoom, we can share what we have. In the same way that if it's hard to bring Ellenville and Rockland together, we can share what we have in a community space.
Thank you for that. Any other thoughts on that?
Phoebe, I just have a time question. So we're at an hour and 20 minutes.
I'm fine with going until we've everyone's asked their questions, but of course, if people need to leave, we will post this online after, and I'm sure the candidates would be glad to answer questions there if anyone has engagements. Yeah, I do see Andrea's hand up.
Hi.
Hi.
I think one of the things that may need to be done is how to make a donation. About 2 years ago, a former leader and someone who was very involved with Addison Boyce passed away. So a nonprofit that I'm involved in decided to take up a collection, and we donated in her name to Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson, but we asked that a bench be put at Addison Boyce with her name on it. Well, if I told you the hoops that I was jumping through to the point where I'm not going to go into the details because we might be here until 10 o'clock. But what then happened was they turned it around and said, well, you know what? We think we want to make another kind of project out of this because we can't put a bench at Addison Boyce, which turned out to be totally wrong because I was able to then send them pictures of benches that do exist at Addison Boyce. And this was operations. It wasn't the board. And so the gentleman who his wife passed away, he was willing to donate the bench in addition to the money that we had collected if we could start another project that may have been a money maker. But I have to tell you, I have 35 plus years into Scouts. I'm a national delegate. I've been a service unit delegate for 27, 28 years. I was so annoyed that I pulled it off the table until I cooled off. And that money's still sitting somewhere in council with her name on it. So there's not a plan on what to do when someone comes to you and hands you $500 and asks you to do something with it specific. They wanted to take that money and just put it in the bank. So there needs to be a plan.
Andrea, I'm sorry that happened. I think I speak for everyone here. I want to go build a bench now, and I'm sure the candidates agree with that. It's awful.
Well, but it wasn't the board. It was what was happening at council itself. As a matter of fact, I did engage privately, some of the board members, because I was trying to find the most polite Girl Scout-like way to handle my frustration and anger with what was happening within council. So the point is that, and I think someone earlier had said that there seems to be such a divide between governance and operations. And so I would like to, again, see that change. Eric Anderson had a nice way of handling that. And I also think that there needs to be a plan for making donations, because if they just go someplace, and I know even in legacy councils that could have been, I know an issue, at least in Rockland, with donations that some have had problems. So I think that there needs to be a plan going forward on how to handle whether somebody's giving you $50 if they want someone's name remembered, or if they're giving you $50,000, there needs to be that recognition. Okay, I'm not keeping you till 10.
Thank you for sharing that, though. Would anyone like to speak to that?
I 100% agree. It should not be hard to donate. It should not be hard to volunteer. It should not be hard to get the resources that you need as a volunteer. Those things that's what council should be doing to support, because it is a volunteer and member driven organization, as most nonprofits are. Without the volunteers, there is no organization, and without the donations, there is no fund. So that should be made as easy as possible. That needs to be a priority.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gail. There's a question here from Jean Scigliano. I truly appreciate Kate, Gail, and Donna stepping up. I'm curious as to the process, as to how they will be put on the slate at the annual meeting. I can actually help answer that. They have our process in our council is that either board members or BDC members can be nominated from the floor. And I make the air quotes because they actually have to be nominated 72 hours in advance. And they have already been nominated. The council has confirmed that they received the nominations, and the people who nominated them need to be prepared to speak at the annual meeting and state that they're nominating them from the floor, which we are prepared to do. So they will be candidates. Any additional questions? Andrea, you still have your hand up, but I'm not sure. Do you have another question? No? Okay. Liz Kaufman has her hand up.
Hi, some of you may recognize me from the meeting in Beacon. And first of all, I want to thank all of you guys for coming here today and our candidates for stepping forward. I want to say also I am in the process of being trained to be a council trainer, and I would love to help. We spoke towards the end of that long night in Beacon. You guys have some great ideas and some real passion, and I can see your commitment to Girl Scouts. I appreciate that. What I would like to know is if you are not, I guess the word is voted in on Wednesday, will you stay involved in the organization and perhaps run through the nominating committee next year?
That's a very good question. Kate, do you want to answer that first?
Yes, I'm 100% in, whether I'm selected or not selected, no matter what happens. This is my daughter, and this is her course, and I'm behind her 100%. I stepped in because I felt that I had something to share. And if there is a more qualified candidate, I am 100% behind backing that person. And I will happily cheer them on and be boots on the ground for them.
Thank you. Donna?
Yeah, so I'm in this unique position where my daughter is a high school senior. She's graduating, going to college. Both my kids are in college. So I have time to commit to helping others. And as I mentioned earlier, this is an organization I'd like to commit my time to. If it's not to be, then I'm going to find some other way to contribute, right? I might pick up service unit manager again, or continue on as delegate, or, this organization is very important to me. And, I'm committed to make sure that we do our best, right, to keep those camps active and to develop leaders of the future and make it an organization that sticks around. And the only way I could do that is to stick around myself.
We can't get rid of you that easily, huh? Thanks, Donna. Gail?
Yeah, it's the will of the delegates, whether whether I'm elected or not, and I 100% support that. I'm happy to devote my energy and my expertise in whatever ways I can be useful, and definitely would be willing if the need arises to run again in the future.
Thank you, Gail. Maureen, you have a question?
I just have a comment to make. So we know who we nominated from the floor. We don't know if anybody else nominated people from the floor. So we know the slate that they presented to us, and we know the 4 people that we nominated from the floor. I also, literally as the meeting got started, understand that some of the people that were on the slate have chosen not to run. And I don't know if that's on the board development committee or if it's on the main slate. So I think that none of us really know what we're going to see until we see it on Wednesday. So one of our concerns is if we're not so sure how open the meeting is going to be. We believe that they're holding the meeting virtually so that we cannot talk to each other. But we don't know if the chat will be open or not open. Hopefully the chat will be open and we can all see it. But if not, I'm not really sure how we communicate if we feel like we need to communicate amongst ourselves at the meeting. I mean, anybody that uses Facebook, we certainly could put comments in the volunteer Facebook page, you know, to at least be able to maybe talk to a larger group. Hopefully the chat will be open. Hopefully my concerns are unfounded, but I do have concerns, and I don't really know what our slate's going to look like, because literally as this meeting was starting, I got a phone call that at least one person, well, 2 people we know have pulled off the slate. So I don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I think that's true. We don't know. There very well could be other nominations from the floor. I think this is kind of an unusual meeting in that way. I do think, I know I was talking to a few other delegates about setting up some kind of chat, maybe a Discord server. We're a little worried about anything that might be too kind of technologically advanced, but some kind of chat we can use, and we'll set that up before the meeting just in case we need a way to communicate with each other, because that's one of the purposes the meetings are supposed to serve, is that they're for networking and communication between delegates. That's what the annual meeting is supposed to do, to let council members communicate. Someone, Jean just asked if we got a link to the meeting yet. I don't believe any of us have.
No,
No.
they just said it's, they just sent another message and said that it will be coming.
Hope so.
There
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
there actually are a number of delegates. I didn't get the packet. Jean sent me the packet. There's a number of delegates that had not even received the packet. So I'm not quite sure what's going on in relation to that.
Yeah,
I wonder, don't we have an email distribution that we could send it to? And
we do.
say,
We
"Yeah,
do have an
received,"
email
or-
distribution. We don't have everyone on it, but we can
Yeah.
email to the people we do have.
Yeah.
Andrea said if it doesn't go well, you leave the meeting and there's no quorum. I do think we would need a way to communicate for that to be an option. So that's another reason to have a chat. April Stiller said, has anyone asked council if the chat will be available rather than assuming? Yes, I have sent a series of messages to the delegates and governance emails asking how we'll be able to make motions, how we'll be able to make interrupting motions, if chat will be available, how we'll be recognized, how they are going to check the voting to make sure that only those who are allowed to vote are voting. I was told not to message customer care about these things, and some of my questions were answered, some weren't. I've asked if there will be a parliamentarian, it's not clear. So we've asked, we have not received answers really on any of these. Other than that, yes, they've talked to a parliamentarian and are working on these questions. So yeah, we don't know. Are there any other questions? Maureen, is your hand up or is it just?
No, I forgot to take it down. So sorry.
That's totally okay. Yeah, April did a frown face and I feel the same way. I'm very frustrated about it. Yeah. Are there any other questions that folks want to ask, or even just talk about the meeting and how we're going to communicate, etc.? Yeah, we can use a group app to talk, Jean. I think that's a really good idea. I think we need a way to communicate. Victoria, I see your hand.
Yeah, so I unfortunately cannot be at the delegate meeting because it's the night of my kids' 7th and 8th grade concert. So I know my other delegate's not, and the other delegate also has a 7th, so neither of us will be there. And how does the proxy work? Can you like either type some information up on the delegate page for the meeting?
Unfortunately,
don't
I
know-
believe a proxy needed to be secured 5 days in advance.
Of the delegate meeting or
Yeah.
the annual? The delegate meetings
Oh,
in,
you mean the delegate meeting? You won't be able
yes,
to
not
do.
the annual fund meeting.
It would be the
Not
same.
sorry.
I
The
believe,
annual meeting.
yeah, I believe it would be the same process for the delegate meeting where you would need to contact council 5 days in advance. I'll double check that. It is in the bylaws how you select a proxy. And there are folks who wanted to be delegates but found out there were already delegates in their service unit. If someone is in a situation where they need a proxy for one of the upcoming meetings, we're happy to find someone who will help represent your service unit.
And we know it's going to be Zoom, because I can probably get our service unit manager. She's been around for like years and years and years to at least be at one. The other two people who are alternates, they're like, they just sort of signed up. They're not gonna, they don't know anything that's happening in council. Like none of this is on their radar. So I have every intention of, I just want to make sure I do it right.
Yeah.
So
it's actually an easier process to have someone apply to be a new alternate or delegate that it is to go through the paperwork of proxy. And if you have alternates responsibilities to attend the meeting, if your delegates can't, so that might be something you want to consider. And they would still, you can do that at any time, but also it's in advance of the annual meeting. Right now, you could have someone fill out that paperwork. And this is all to my knowledge, but having looked a lot at that delegate paperwork, that's what I believe is the case.
Yeah, you're correct, Fox. It's section 2.9, and it should be applicable to any voting meeting. So the special delegate meeting as well as the annual meeting, 5 days.
I won't be at the special one either. I have a work fundraising event.
It does happen, but really, if there are people who are interested, like your service unit manager.
Yeah, she'll definitely, and I think there's one other person who, if I can get new alternates, that might be easier.
Yeah, it might be. After I looked into the proxy process for some folks, that was ultimately, I believe it's just securing written agreement by the deadline, but sometimes those things can be harder to do with people who aren't as engaged. So
yes, exactly.
And I will double check that for you. It's in my notebook.
Right, and maybe post those dates online too, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who can't, and people are going to be caught off. It is definitely a time of year where there's a lot of school stuff. Who might not be able to make it, so it might be beneficial for others too.
Yeah, it's difficult. We appreciate those reminders. Jane?
Yeah, somebody had said in the chat about starting a group chat app. Is that something we should do now with all the people here to go on that, or?
I think we can get that set up over the next day or two, just to make sure we have everything in place and
I didn't know if all the people on here, you have all their contact, or.
I believe
How do we
looking
get-
around, you know what, I am going to be a little distracted for a moment. How about Kristen, while I look up our contact form, can you go ahead and ask your question?
You bet.
Thank you.
So I imagine that there are some new delegates, maybe people who have become delegates or put their paperwork in the past few months to become delegate, or like myself, an alternate delegate. At what point are the delegates, the new delegates and alt delegates votes recordable? When do they count? Is there a voting in at the beginning of the annual meeting? Do you need to have something from council saying, yes, we are recognizing you as a alt delegate or a delegate? I just would like to know if my vote is going to count, and whether other new people who are coming will have their votes counted as well.
I'd like to try answering that for us. So what should happen is you should get an invite to this meeting as a delegate or as an alternative delegate. they need to take a count of the quorum. We have to have a quorum at the meeting. At National Convention, they also do a count for a quorum at every vote. So if both your delegates and both your alternates get there, then only the 2 delegates will be voting, the 2 alternates won't be voting. My concern, several concerns. One, the amounts of people that didn't actually get their packets. I believe people are not going to get their personal links. And I'm hoping everybody got RSVP'd, because if you didn't RSVP, I think you're not going to be invited or counted. So what should happen is everybody should get a link. Everybody should have known it was happening. Everybody should have registered. Everybody should get a link. And then whatever 2 people from your service unit, either 2 delegates or 2 alternates or some combination, if there's a quorum, then we can vote. And at every vote, they need to make sure people didn't leave. So that should be what's happening. Will that happen?
I registered, okay, and got back the thing that I registered for the meeting, and I have received no communication from them. So I'm not even sure if I'm going to get the link.
That's upsetting.
But I called them. I emailed the delegate email, have gotten no response. I called customer care and they're on it.
Have you checked your junk mail?
Pardon?
Have you checked your junk mail? Because
yes, I've
sometimes that
checked
has-
junk mail, and I have 2 emails. So, and I had changed my email with them. So but I checked both emails, and I've checked my junk mail, and it's nowhere.
It's so customer care did say they were on it.
Supposedly.
At least you did get, it's funny. Some of the delegates here know that I've gotten scolded several times for emailing customer care about delegate issues. And I told them, this is the only way we guarantee that you've gotten it.
Well, I didn't even email them. I called them, and I actually got a person. And I said to her, I had emailed the delegate email and got no response. So she supposedly is checking into it.
So I am going to put a link here, and someone said, I think it was Jean messaged me, why don't we just share the delegate list, bad as it is? I don't think that's a bad, she messaged me personally and said that. I don't think that's a bad suggestion at all, Jean. And I actually, looking at this room, I trust the folks who are here. Please, I'm going to share this, and don't share it with people who aren't in council. Don't email, don't try to sell us multi-level marketing leggings off the email list. Please go in there and put in your delegate information and the information of the other delegates in your service unit if you know it. And we will use that to contact folks. And this might not even be the most recent one we have, but it should help. Thank you, Joanne. So are there any other questions? And I would say, please go click on that link right away so you have that when the chat closes. Just so you have it open. Are there any?
Phoebe, are they going to be able to make changes to that? Are they set up as editors?
I just set it up so that
Okay.
anyone who has the link is an editor, which is why please don't send it to anyone who will fill it with bad emails, etc. But we're all
Okay.
Girl Scouts. I trust you all to be grown-ups about that. Are there any other questions or concerns?
Just one more logistical thing from past meetings when we were voting electronically, because we have voted electronically before. Somebody, usually Ann Chow, and Ann Chow is an amazing gift to our council, is in charge of dealing with problems as they're happening. So I do believe that they will give us a contact person. If you're having a problem, you'll be able to reach out to that should be able to fix your problems. But obviously we want to, once we start to hear that the links have gone out, we want to share with everybody the links have gone out. If you didn't get your link, we need to deal with that before, 6:45 on Wednesday night.
That's great. Thank you, Maureen. Any other thoughts or concerns? No. All right. We really appreciate everyone coming out, and I think I speak for everyone that we appreciate having the opportunity to speak to one another tonight and chat about these concerns. I will reach out via the delegate email that we've been using. you're welcome, Andrea, to make sure everyone has the delegate packets that council has sent out. I'm trying to think, there's a long list in my notes here of things we need to do. The list keeps getting longer. It's amazing. And just do let us know if you need anything or have any concerns that we can help with. What we're most interested in is helping everyone in our council have a voice and have representation. So I'm going to click end. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Fox.
Of
Bye.
course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very